Well, a very good morning to all of us. Welcome to this hearing conservation program. My name is Lee. I'm the part one presenter of this training. My topic is on A Glimpse of HCP. Today is September 28th, Saturday, and now it's 10 a.m. So we'll look into my credential where I'm currently involved in this mega rare project as a translator and a trainer. Officially, I will involved in the internal audit and also the HSE observation. So this is my education background, where I registered with DOSH in 2021. I have literacy in relevant ISO requirement. And also I'm a competent triple S and also NIOSH competent trainer, currently pursuing my master in project management as year 2 student. So this is basically the learning outcome I would like to have for all participants, where after they have this part one introduction to this HCP, they'll be able to understand and communicate effectively on the following topic, which is quite essential for the day-to-day activities in a workplace within this general working setting. So first is to recognize the health risks associated with excessive noise exposure and importance of protecting hearing. Second is to learn how to properly select, fit, and use personal hearing protection to minimize noise exposure in the workplace. And also thirdly is to identify signs of hearing loss, understand audiometric testing procedures, and participate in regular monitoring and reporting practices related to our hearing health. So at the right-hand side, as we can see, this is the anatomy of our ear. So hearing is all about the ear. We have three parts in the ear: external, middle, and also inner. As we can see outside here is basically called pinna. And after pinna, there will be ear canal that will collecting the sound wave. So the sound waves will hit the eardrum just like the normal drum. And then the eardrum will send this sound wave to the obstacles. Obstacles will amplify this sound wave and then towards the chorion. Chorion is where we convert this sound wave into the signal that our brain can receive. And this signal will send to the auditory nerves for our brain to interpret. So today is basically about hearing, and hearing is all about our ear. Contents, the flow of today's basically will begin with the overview, go towards the noise risk assessment, noise control measure, audiometric testing, information, instruction and training, record keeping, and also the recaps of the whole training for part one. So as we can see here, the principles, the objective, and the components of HCP. So basically, my training will be based mainly on this industry code of practice for management of occupational noise exposure and hearing conservation 2019. So for your information, industry code is basically a guidance for employers, employees, and also us practitioners on how to identify excessive noise, assessing the risks and implement control measure to reduce noise exposure at place of work. So what is important here is the employer responsibility, employee participation. They both work together to have this comprehensive implementation to prevent the occupational noise-related hearing disorders. So the objective is to minimize the risks of excessive noise exposure and to prevent occupational noise-related hearing disorders. So what is considered a successful HCP will be basically a program that can eliminate or minimize noise hazard. This is a series of activities that require management commitment and active employee involvement. So management must take appropriate steps to encourage employee participation in the development and implementation of the HCP. These are the 5 components we have today: noise risk assessment, noise control measure, audiometric testing, information, instruction and training, and also the record keeping. So for the first part, we look into noise risk assessment, where we collect data from area, what we call area monitoring, personal monitoring. So basically, the objective of this noise risk assessment is to identify the employees that are likely to expose to excessive noise, to obtain info about the noise source and work practice, to check the effectiveness, to help in the selections of personal hearing protection, to demarcate hearing protection zones, and to determine the needs of establishing and implementing HCP. So the requirement will have a noise risk assessor who is registered with Director General within 1 month of the identification. So the noise risk assessment shall be reviewed, but no more than 5 from the date of the previous noise risk assessment, and shall be reviewed if directed by the Director General. So who is an RA? Well, can be a Malaysian citizen, no commission with OSHA Act, medically fit, as certified, and application must be made 3 years within or after passing the NRA examination. Spare requirements would be better if have this minimum qualification in diploma in science, engineering, or occupational safety and health, or the industrial hygiene by MQA Malaysia, and pass the examination. Okay. The application submission, as we can see here, there will be certificates, IC, experience details, court attendance, examination certificates, and the certificate of fitness. Basically, NRA, they have to renew 3 years once, and it costs 100 ringgit. Okay. Then the duty would be basically to conduct assessment, carry equipment, notify authorities, reporting, present findings, and also do summary report lah. These are the duties of noise risk assessor. And after we get to know the people who conduct the HCP, you have to get to know what is the difference between sounds and noise. Well, we will look into the aspect of definition, perception, measurement, context, effects. So for sound itself is a mechanical wave produced by vibrations. It can be present or neutral. It measures in frequency like hertz and amplitude in decibels. It refers to any audible phenomenon like speech, music. So the effect will be to enhance experience and facilitate communication. In the comparison, noise, they are unwanted or disruptive sound. So generally unpleasant or annoying. Often measured in the decibel, focusing on disruptive levels, defined as sounds that interfere with communications or causes discomfort. So noise, they can lead to health issue and hinder productivity. Why I say so? Noise as hazard, it will affect our health effects like hearing loss, like stress and fatigue, like sleep disturbances. If have impact on work performance, that it will show in reduced concentration and create these communication barriers. With this, our OSHA actually set up these permissible exposure limits for noise. So typically would be 85 decibel over 8 hours is essential for protecting worker health. This is under the regulatory standards. Okay. So this is the OSHA permissible exposure limits, where you can see here the green zone is 30, like the leaves, rustling, soft music, whistle. However, when it reached to 80 to 89, sounds above 85 decibel are harmful. It includes the heavy traffic, window air conditioner, noisy restaurant, power lawn, mower. So for us to get to know noise level, we have to have this noise measuring equipment, or we call it as devices. So these are the two samples. The first being the sound level meter, the SLM, and second would be the noise dosimeter. So these two have to be under the standard of Internal Electro-Technical Commission, IEC standard. For SLM, preferable will be ICE standard 61672. And then for the noise dosimeter will be preferable for 61252. All right. So In order to obtain accurate data, we have to conduct this field calibration. So field calibration is advisable to conduct at the start of each noise monitoring, at the end of each noise monitoring. If the reading at any frequency at the end of the noise monitoring is differs from the reading from the beginning, like 0.5 decibel, so the result should be discarded. And this NRA, noise risk assessor, they should record the field calibration reading of noise dosimeter and SLM. Okay, so for the noise, for us to collect the data, we have to know the type of noise. We have steady noise like the humming of air conditioner. This noise level are fairly steady lah, and the meter reading will be on slow response that not fluctuated more than 3 decibel. And the fluctuating noise will be like the traffic. It's like on and off, beep, beep, and then stop, and then boom. Sometimes, like, so these noise level are not steady and meter reading on slow response will varies over 3 to 10 decibel range. As for the impulse or impact noise, a sudden loud noise that differs greatly from the normal noise levels experienced in the workplace, like for example, explosive material, gunshot, fireworks. So the sampling method will be basically to take spot measurement, 1 meter from the machine and the floor level. And for each of the noise source, at least 3 measurements should be taken, and the average of the result is recorded. This is for the area monitoring. Then also for area monitoring, we'll look into noise mapping color zone, where we have from white, yellow, red, and purple, following the scale from less than 82 decibel up to 140. So this is basically a completed noise map with the scale at the right-hand side, as we can observe. So for personal monitoring, we have to look into this SEC. SEC is similar exposure group. So NRA have to like really ensure the most exposed employee in each SEC. So it's selected based on this criteria, like work directly under the noise source, work near or pass through area with noise exposure, and work in noisy area for a long period of time. So this is the setup of the noise dosimeter because we want to collect data personally. So the microphone will be pinned here. Yes, it's considered like at least 0.1 meter from the entrance of the ear. And then the approximately 0.04 meter above the shoulder. So the microphone and the cable will be fastened so that will not lead to false result. This noise dosimeter must be set up as follows. Why? Because when we set up with the criterion level 85 decibel, this is considered where the hearing protection is recommended to prevent hearing damage. Because this criterion level will have set that the level above this will prolong exposure. For prolonged exposure could lead to hearing loss. Then we have also set up the threshold level where the noise begin to pose a risk to hearing. So regular exposure may start to affect the hearing health. And the exchange rate is set at 3 decibel because every 3 decibel increase in noise, the permissible exposure is cut in half. So for this time constant, we set as low because the measurement average out the rapid fluctuation in noise. So we will have more stable reading. As for the peak level, like usual, the maximum instantaneous sound pressure level in a noise environment will be 140 decibel. This peak level can cause immediate damage to our hearing. So with this, we also have to look into the validity of the measurement. When we collect data, after we collect it, we have to interview supervisor or workers, taking spot measurement to verify the levels measured using noise dosimeter and an examination of the noise dosimeter log at the end of the shift. This is compulsory. And the source of uncertainty we take into account will be the variation in the daily work, operating condition uncertainty, and also the instrumentation and calibration, the microphone position, the force contribution of vena, airflow, impact of the microphone wrapping on the cloth, and the contribution for non-typical noise source like speech, music, background music, alarm signals, and non-typical behavior lah. So this is after we collect, we'll look into this daily noise exposure level. So this is the label. And then what is important here is basically, okay, it's a bit fast. Let me go back a bit. Okay, so the explanation of this formula basically, less 8 hour is a typical 8-hour workday. Okay, as we can see here. If TE is less than T0, less than 8 hours, this will decrease the exposure and then lower risks. If it's greater, then will increase the exposure, that will be have higher risks. So this formula is to standardize noise exposure assessment. And except this daily noise exposure level, we have also the daily personal noise dose. This one we have to check because this calculates the noise dose as a percentage of the allowable limit. So it will start at like 85 and higher. Let result in a greater increase in those will indicating more significant risks. Okay, so we can see that we have a dose of 100% here. This is to signify the limits that have been breached, indicating a need for hearing protection or reduced exposure. Why we say so? According to this scenario, we have collect data from, like, for example, the staff A, and the working hours is 10 hours. So when we check the level, noise exposure limit level, we actually obtain 88 decibel throughout these 10 hours. Yes, which is harmful. And the dose is like 198.1%. So we have identified the excessive noise level to this stuff. Why it is important? Because when you identify this excessive noise, we will have employer to involve. Yes, this is to take action later, and we require assessment. And this assessment checklist we can see at Appendix 1. And we have this risk assessment that we have to see in Appendix 2. So the excessive noise identification actually is harmful. And the example I give here is basically called tinnitus. This is basically a disorder that we have this persistent additional sound to be heard in our ear, but not present in the environment. We'll keep have this ringing, buzzing, hissing, and humming in our ear. Can you imagine? So as for the Appendix 1, this is the noise hazard identification list. They have like 10 questions have to answer. Like, for example, that any equipment have manufacturer's information, including labels indicating noise level greater than 140 or 82. These are one of the example of the question in checklist. And also, because we have identified the excessive noise, we have to develop this noise risk assessment report writing. These are the criteria. The noise risk assessment title page content, and then we will have this also the result of personal monitoring recommendation of control measure. With control measure and risk assessment reporting, we have to report on noise risk assessment. The employer should inform Dodge State Office on the action taken within 30 days. So after we identify the excessive noise, we have to look into noise control measure. This is on the engineering control, administrative control, and personal hearing protector. So after identify the excessive noise, we have to go to reductions of excessive noise. Well, no single solution fit all, so we have to have better knowledge of our plant operations and process. So at the same time, employer also have to evaluate when using this control, the practicability of using the engineering or administrative control to reduce noise So they have to also justify themselves that include the impact on the business and workers, the resource required for noise reduction, anticipate success of control measure, number of individuals benefiting from the measure. So these are basically the three types: the engineering control that focus on equipment and processes, administrative control that will organize work to reduce exposure duration, and other controls such as the personal hearing protection. The effectiveness and maintenance of engineering control should be evaluated with consultation from acoustic experts if necessary. Like we give an example here, to set up the platform to segregate the noisy machine and the staff. The applications of administrative control when used to like increase distance with noise source and workers scheduling noisy tasks with fewer people present, limiting numbers of workers in noisy area, design job to minimize time spent in noisy environment and to provide rest breaks away from noise. So we'll look into detail for engineering control. Engineering control basically focus on to control the source and to control along the transmission path. The priority will be given to the source control. So for new plants and workplace, we'll have to check on the design opportunities, tender specifications, supplier information, design consideration, and noise feature. For existing plants and workplace, where we have to conduct risk assessment to identify high exposure source, to reduce exposure below specified noise exposure limits, and to consider replace noisy machinery with quieter alternative. So at transmission part, we will have the strategy like isolation strategies, protective design. The principles is to using distance to segregate the source and workers, to have barriers so that they can protect the workers to exposure. Acoustic treatment will be to add absorptive materials to barriers and to have resonant control, design walls and enclosure to avoid this resonant or reflecting frequency transmission. Reverberation control will be to use acoustically absorbent materials to reduce this reflection. So regular checks for this measure is important too. So employer should also establish a system for routine inspection and maintenance. And for administrative control, we'll look into this compliance to the OSHA Noise Exposure Regulation 2019. It will involve like job rotation, increasing distance from noise source, securing work to limit exposure and provide quieter for breaks. So this is the job rotation, and also I have this noise level and daily exposure duration limit. So administrator, they can develop this duty roster according to this reference, so as to limit the duration employees spend in noisy area lah. And then this is the distance where what we deem as effective is increase the distance between the noise source and worker, because this is the most cost-effective control. And the noise level can be decreased by approximately 6 decibel with each doubling of distance from the source. Then we have to look into the strategy to organize the work schedules so as the noisy machinery operates with fewer employees present. Quiet areas will basically to have a place segregated and quiet for employees to take breaks, which is located away from the noise source to provide relief from occupational noise. Then we have to look into hearing protection. Yes, so hearing protection should be have this employers must supply effective PHP lah. This measure will be complement together with engineering control, administrative control. It's not work alone, and it should be used temporarily and should not be removed, especially in noisy areas above 80 decibels. And such practice must be included in PHP program. So hearing how to select, they have to approve by Director General under steering. So employees should obtain provide the attenuation values that are out to employees and health and safety representative. So the selection basically on the criteria of workers' noise exposure level, workers' hearing ability, compatibility with other personal protective equipment, temperature and climate conditions, communication needs, and physical constraint of the workers or tasks. Why we say so? Because there are differences in the feature such as portability, comfort, noise reduction, hygiene, discreteness, ease of use, heat retentions of earplugs and earmuffs. For earplugs, it's highly portable, but it may cause irritation. It can have this noise reduction up to 30 decibel, but it requires frequent cleaning. Well, it's less noticeable, but it requires proper insertion and heat retention is like minimal lah. So it's quite easy to use. Yes, as for earmuffs, it's bulkier, generally comfortable, but the noise reduction will be within like 20 to 30 decibel only. Easier to clean, more visible, easy to wear, but can cause sweating. They have their pros and cons. It depends on how we use it. So if we use only single protection, normally for the earplug or earmuffs itself, it will be like 30 decibel. So the effective noise reduction will be 30 decibel. Let's say the place have the exposure level of 90 decibel. After wearing this earmuff or earplug, we can have the reduction of 30 ma. So the estimated noise exposure will reduce to 60. As for double protection or dual protection, which means we use the earmuffs and the earplugs together. So the effective noise reduction will be like 22 decibel. This is because we are using this the highest noise reducing rating, 29, and then the estimated noise exposure after wearing dual protection is 94 decibel, which is still harmful, isn't it? So basically, we have to have frequent inspection and maintenance toward this uh hearing protection, and we also have to conduct annual training for the uh personal hearing protectors. So with this hearing protection, set up hearing protection zones also important. So we have to have signage, or alternative methods will be like prominent notice on truths indicating the PHP, written and verbal instruction, effective supervision in hearing protection zone. Then we go to the audiometric testing. This is advisable to conduct on a per annum basis. So we will look into the principle. This is important because this test will be help to identify changes in hearing over time, and you have to offer to all employees. So the testing have to run by a qualified personnel. Pre-text requirements is required, like for example, to answer questionnaire and to have a trial period of 14 hours without exposure to noise over 80 decibel. The frequency and type will be like 500 to 800 lah. So this a baseline audiogram will be established within the 3 months of starting work, including the noise program. So this is basically the audiometric testing. So the employee that will expose to noise exposure limit, you will have this testing at this audiometric test center. Then this the audiogram will be interpreted by doctor, and the center will submit to employer within 30 days. Then the employer will have action based on the audiometric test result. So when the doctor notified the occupational to the Director General will be within a 7 days period. And also when the employer to inform to staff will be within 21 days. Let's say that the employee have a temporary standard threshold shift, and the employee have to retest it within 3 months. And then the employer have to make appropriate arrangement to protect the employee's hearing. And also if it's considered normal, then can proceed to perform annual audiometric testing on it. If abnormal, then if abnormal, let's say it's permanent, or the hearing impairment or hearing loss, then the employer have to notify to the DOSH office within 7 days, and the employee will be provided with personal hearing protection. And if refit and refrain the employee in the use of PHP. So this is basically the workflow, and the questionnaire form from the audiometric testing will have to be answered by the employee. These are the part that I already explained in the audiometric workflow, and these are the three types we have for the occupational noise-related hearing disorder: noise-induced hearing loss, hearing impairment, standard threshold shift. So what we have to identify here is basically the characteristic of the noise-induced hearing loss. This will affect the cochlear hair shell, sensory, neural, and irreversible. It cannot be cured. So this may cause by firearms. The noise is too loud. The hearing loss over 75 decibel high frequency or 40 decibels usually not noise related. And what we can do here is the risks increase significantly above 85 decibel over the span of 8 hours. So this is quite important for us to reduce the decibel. Then, as we can see here, hearing impairment would be to check without the baseline audiogram. So the average threshold will be like above 25 decibel, or if it's like normal, like 0 to 25, then still considered as acceptable. So the standard threshold shift will be identified for the types of temporary STS, which is reversible, known as just auditory fatigue. But if permanent STS is irreversible, the example of calculation, if we identify, then the positive number indicates deterioration, but if negative, there will be improvement. So a permanent STS is confirmed if it persists in retest within 3 months. The age adjustment are not required for reporting the noise-induced hearing loss, hearing impairment, or permanent. The standard threshold shift to the Director General or DOSH. So the baseline audiogram doesn't have to report to the DG. So this is the sample for positive, and this is the sample for negative. This negative shift is considered as improvement. So the medical examination and referral, if abnormal result occurs, so this is when the work commences. So they will take the baseline audiogram within 3 months. Then if normal, then after 1 year, we take again. If it's abnormal, then we have to retest it within 3 months. And after retest, and we obtain that the persistence of the standard threshold shift in retest audiograms still remain high, that is considered as permanent standard threshold shift. So with this, we have to notify to the related DOSH office and the employee. And the duties of occupational doctor will be to supervise audiometric testing, interpret audiogram, notify authorities, refer or revise audiograms, referral for further treatment, follow-up, medical examination, education. So the center will have to register, and they have to this renewal normally will last for 1 year. So they are to coordinate with employers' compliance, require state requirement, notification, reporting, changes notification, maintenance and calibration, record keeping, annual summary submission. So the information part, instruction and training, all employees have to be provided with information and training about the importance of protecting their hearing. So employer have to expose this information to their employees on health risks, social impacts, noise control plans, responsibility, reporting procedure, assessment result. But the employee have to cooperate with the employer, use the PHP properly, adhere to all safety measures that related to the noise. And also for training requirement, employers must provide provide training on this OSHA regulation, noise exposure 2019, adverse effect, purpose and benefit info, geometric testing, explanation, and overview of the workplace noise control plan. So additional training will be to discuss on hearing health, and training must be conducted in languages understood by all employees. Training content should be reviewed to ensure the effectiveness. So training target group will be to tailor training towards employees who are exposed to noise, manager and supervisors, safety committee, personnel responsible for purchasing noise control equipment and designing workplace layout. So this is an example of the guideline for presenting noise level information. And then we will look into this record keeping. To establish proper record keeping to document HCP activities important, where the retention period for exposure monitoring records is to maintain for not less than 30 years. For the retention period for automatic test records will be to retain as long as possible when the employee is employed, and for an additional 5 years after employment ends, depending on the evaluation. So all the documents have to be organized and easily accessible. It's also important to protect the confidentiality while complying with relevant regulations. So my summary is a learning recap of this training. Basically, we look into these 5 components: noise risk assessment, noise control measure, automatic testing, information instruction and training, and record keeping. So I open the floor for Q&A session. If there is not, this my code sharing. We don't have to be great. We have to be start to be great. So later on, I will have my next trainer, Mr. Prem, to present on the topic 2 on finding the invisible culprit noise identification in the hearing conservation program. So thank you so much for your time and thanks for the opportunity given. See you soon.